Haribol. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Dutta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Wait, Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Astotar Dutta Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke Bhakti bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil. And loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Or as they used to say in the early days before they knew how to pronounce it, irrevocable. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 7th day of October, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 13, The Behavior of a Perfect Person, text number 35. Madhukara Mahasarpao Loke Asmin No Guruttamao Vairagyam Paritosham Cha Prapta Yach Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpao Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paritosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpao Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpao Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpo Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpo Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpo Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpo Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpo Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam. Ladies. Madhukara Mahasarpo Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paditosham Cha Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam. Anyone online? I guess Vijay is boycotting me. There he goes. Madhukara Mahasarpo
Lokesmin no Guruttamao
Lokesmin no Guruttamao
Vairagyam Paritosham. Oh my God. Vairagyam Paritosham Cha
Vairagyam Paditosham Cha
Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam
Praptaya Chikshaya Vayam. Vijay, instead of Portugal, you sound like you're in Bhutan or China or somewhere.
Why?
Turn up the volume on your
Of course.
Okay, it's Dravida here. Oh, we got to turn it up? All right. All right, synonyms. Madhukara. Bees that go from flower to collect honey. Mahasarpal. The big snake. The python which does not move from one place to another. Loke. In the world. Asmin. This. Naha. Our. Guru. Spiritual masters. Uttamau. First class. Vairagyam. Renunciation. Paritosham. Paritosham cha. And satisfaction. Praptaha. Obtained. Yat shikshaya. By whose instruction? Vayam. We. Translation. The bee and the python are two excellent... I'm sorry. Let's go. You say after me. The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. Translation. The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. No purport. Viraga sarvakamebhya shikshito me madhuvratat kritraptam madhuvad vittam hatvap anyo haret patim. Translation. From the bumblebee I have learned to be unattached to accumulating money. For although money is as good as honey, anyone can kill its owner and take it away. Purport. The honey gathered in the honeycomb is taken away by force. Therefore, one who accumulates money should realize that he may be harassed by the government or by thieves or even killed by enemies. Especially in this age of Kali Yuga, it is said that instead of protecting the money of the citizens, the government itself will take away the money with the force of law. The learned Brahmin had therefore decided that he should not accumulate any money. One should own as much as he immediately needs. There is no need to keep a big balance at hand, along with the fear that it might be plundered by the government or by thieves. Maybe one or two more. Next text. I do not endeavor to get anything, but I am satisfied with whatever is achieved in its own way. If I do not get anything, I am patient and unagitated like a python and lie down in this way for many days. Purport. One should learn detachment from the bumblebees, for they collect drops of honey here and there and keep it in their honeycomb, but then someone comes and by force takes all the honey away, leaving the bumblebees with nothing. Therefore, one should learn from the bumblebee not to keep more money than one needs. Similarly, one should learn from the python to stay in one place for many, many days without food and then eat only if something comes in its own way. Thus, the learned Brahmin gave instructions gained from two creatures, namely the bumblebee and the python. Om jnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshur unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Abhira, can you put those curtains? Thank you. So this reminds me of a passage in the Uddhava Gita. If you recall, in the 11th canto, I think it's near the beginning of the Uddhava Gita, that Krishna lists, 20 or 30 entities in our environment that we can learn from. Not just living entities, just like the earth, you can learn tolerance and patience. The dog, you can learn faithfulness and things like that. So this is in that line, the Python man is describing different entities such as the python and the bee, and the bees who are he learned from the bee not to collect more than necessary, because the bees collect more than necessary and is all stolen away, right? And the python, he learned that just stay in one place, be patient, whatever Krishna wants to give, he will give. And this reminds me of a verse that comes up near in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. I don't know if I mentioned this last time. But in the instructions of Vyasadeva, in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto, the instructions to Vyasadeva by Narada Muni on writing the Bhagavatam, he first more or less chastises him. I think the Ashram Maharaj, his favorite to describe this. He will ask the question: what are all the other writings of Vyasadeva before he wrote the Bhagavatam? What are they compared to? You remember? You remember? Yeah, but more graphically, a garbage heap, which is pretty far out because you got within that canon with one end. It means like books. You have the Mahabharata, in which there's the Bhagavad Gita. You have the Padma Purana, in which there's a lot of stuff about devotional service, if I understand, but not exclusively. The point was, the first verse he teaches him is Nayad Bachas Chitta Badang Hare Yasho Jagat Pavitram Pragunita Karichit Tad Vaya Samtirtam Ashanti Manasa Nayatahangsa Niramantu Shikshaya. That those words that basically don't exclusively deal with Lord Hari and his devotees and his devotional service. They may be very nicely composed, Chitta Padang, very, very poetic and all these. But Jagat Pavitram, the purifier of the universe, who is Krishna, Pragunita Kadasha, they never speak about him, then it's like a pilgrimage, a place for crows, a garbage heap. The swan-like devotees don't go there, you see. And then after that, soon after that, he has this famous verse, Tyaktva Charanam Bhujang Harer, that if someone gives up his duties, material duties in the Varna ashram, and he joins the Hare Krishnas, or he takes fully to devotional service, then where is there any loss? But even if he falls away, he only stays in the ashram a couple of months and then he goes off, whatever, or even after years. Where is there any loss? Okay, we say, well, he lost all that time, he could have been earning money. No, because the money is number one, it makes you more attached to the material world. And number two, it can be taken by thieves, by the government, by your friends, so-called friends, whatever, cheated. So many scammers on the internet, try to convince you that, we're so sorry, it looks like we charged your account for, $380 for this. And if there's any problem, just give us a call, And then they get you to trust them, and then, anyway, it's a big scam. But so the world is filled with that, with people like that. So it's a better investment to live as simply as possible and invest your time and effort in making progress in devotional service. So this is what Narada Muni is telling him. So here he says, if someone gives up his duty in Varnashram and takes to full bhakti, but he falls away, where is there any loss? We know from Bhagavad Gita that there's no loss or diminution. In next life you'll have it. But if you very nicely stay within your material duties, and then you all throughout your life, and then you die, what did you gain? You didn't gain anything, because it's all taken away anyway at the end, and you don't have any assets in devotional service, you see. So then the next verse is pertinent to what we're reading here. It says, Tasyaiva heto prayate kovido nalabhyate yad brahmadama prayata talabhyade dukkha vadanyundak sukham kalena sarvata gabhira rangasa. This similar instruction is given by Prahlad Maharaj to his friends. So he's saying there, with the human life, one should strive for what you have not obtained by going up and down the species and up and down the different planets and all your sojourn in the material world, which could be going on for lifetimes of Brahma already. You haven't attained it, any devotion to Krishna. So, rather one should strive as hard as he can for devotion to Krishna, because in this world, it's already programmed in from your previous life, how much happiness you're going to get and how much distress you're going to get. Now, it may not be exactly according to how much money you're going to make and so forth, because that money can be a source of great distress. If you lose it, gamble it away, someone steals it, whatever, So, but rather just the feeling of happiness. You've already got some material happiness that's programmed in. So what's the point of striving for more? You're just wasting the time. Therefore, the intelligent person strives for spiritual assets. In other words, transcendental credits that you'll then carry from one birth to the other, even if you don't complete the course in this life. So that's the idea, is that it's a bad investment. Let's just speak of it as a bad investment to start, worry about the money and go to school in order to learn how to manipulate the stock market. This is a whole thing. Guys graduate from MIT, they immediately go to Wall Street. They're called not wonks, quants. Have you heard that? Quants. In other words, they're very good at manipulating figures, and in this way, manipulating the stock market. So it's a fool's errand. It's a fool's dream, because even if you succeed, is Elon Musk look happier than like the new Bhaktas? I don't think so. I'm looking at Virat Chandra there. He doesn't have much, because he's got an unlimited amount of fruit. But he's much happier than Elon Musk, and all these other guys. So that's the whole point here, is that it's a serious mistake that everyone in the material world is making, because we're materially conditioned to try to manipulate the material world to get the safe place and put money in here. It's the teaching. There's so many teachings. I'm thinking of Rishabdev, he this famous verse, Yan maitanadi guhimedu sukami tucham. Kandu yanena karayori vadukka dukam. No, that's Prahlad Maharaj, excuse me. Pungsastuya mituni bhavametang tayo mato vidya grantamaho. Adha guha cheta sutapta vitta janasya moho yamahammameti. This is a really important verse. So he's saying that the main attraction, the sex attraction, pungsastuya mituni bhavam. When the mood, the aura of the sex attraction is there because of man and women, and then they get together, and then the bond becomes very tight, and then if they're human beings, they get married, okay. So, but what does that mean? Atta, then, griha, cheta, sutta, apta, vittaya. There's a whole list to come one after another. So the first thing, you need a place. Right? Oh, now I got to worry about apartment. I was living peacefully in the Brahmacharya ashram. Now I got to get a place. That means then you got to get a job. Now here it says chaitra, because chaitra means a place you can farm. And a lot of the vast majority in India, in places that means that's your source of sustenance. But it can just mean a job also. So you got a place, then you got to get a job, chaitra, and then come children. That's another big responsibility. You got to worry about their health. Are they safe? Education. Are they going to get married? Apta, the larger circle of relatives. When I grew up in a Jewish family, the whole mishpucha means the cousins and the uncles and the once removed and all of it. So that's also responsibility, especially in India. You have the extended family. So sutta, apta, and then to support it all, vittai, Lakshmi, money. And with all of this, janasya moho yamahammameti. This feeds. This is the substance of what it means of ahammameti, false ego, I and mine, right? Everything related to the body. So that this theme comes up again and then in the Bhagavatam. So what should we strive for? We should strive, and I like this idea of greed, because how greedy. Greed is one of the gates to hell. Krishna described in the 16th chapter. But we do need to be greedy for spiritual things, right? That's the price of getting pure love for Krishna. The famous verse: Krishna bhakti nasabhavitamati kriyatam yadikatopi labbite tatta laulimapi mulyamekalam janmakoti sukatayana labbit. It says, Krishna consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness. That's the first line Prabhupada translated as Krishna consciousness. The mind absorbed in bhakti rasa, one's actual relationship with Krishna. This is the most valuable thing. Kriyatam, one should buy it if he can find it. Get paid, buy it in the marketplace. Yadikatopi labhyate. But what is the price? Tattva mulyam. Mulyam is the price. Is laulyam. Is greed. That's the whole point. You remember in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I always wondered about this, and it became clear when I read the CC, is that, okay, if you can't take fully the Krishna consciousness, and you can't really give, you're not wealthy enough to give something for the cause, then just work by not being selfish, being generous to others. Don't be greedy and become attached to your possessions. Because by such activity, you will eventually attain the desire to attain me. You see? In other words, even the preliminary process of Bhakti Yoga, you're cultivating desire to hear and chant more, to serve, all these different, you're purifying your desires. That's the whole process. You can't be desireless. That's the big mistake of the Mayavadis and the Buddhists and all that. We're living entities. That means we have desires. It's a question of the quality of desires, what you desire, what you aspire for. And if you desire for the wrong things, material things, then it's a self-defeating, suicidal policy. Because all you're going to do is end up dying with all of those unfulfilled desires, plus probably a lot of enmity toward those who stole your money, cheated you, your wife left you, whatever it is, And that's not going to take you back to Godhead. That'll take you, if you're lucky, to another human form to keep suffering, or a lower form. So that greed has to be cultivated. How? By associating with devotees. That's the chief thing. Associated with advanced devotees, and picking up on their faith and their eagerness for hearing and chanting and so forth. And this reminds me of one of my favorite verses from the Padyavali. It's not often quoted, but it's the prayer to become a miser. Some of you may have heard me do this one. So he says, Vichayani, Vichayani, Vichintani, Punak Punaha, Kripanasya, Dhananiva, Tunnamani Bhavantuna. Put it into a little poem. He says, compelled to constantly collect and count his precious hoard, the miser contemplates his wealth with avaricious aims. Please bless me to become a miser who's compelled, O Lord, to constantly collect and count and contemplate your names. In other words, when you read, last night I went up to Laguna Beach, and they had a little program there. I went up with Aviral and Hina and Asha. We drove them up in the back seat, and so it was. I quoted this verse, and I was making the point that we're given a choice. This is what Srila Prabhupada came to give us. By knowledge, you now have a choice of what you're going to strive for, and what you're going to covet. And the whole idea is to systematically transfer your desires and your covetousness for material things over to Krishna, and good association. I hope I can get Brahma initiation, then I can go on the altar and serve the deities, and dress them. That may be your which is a very healthy desire. So that's we have to use our intelligence. Am I weakening my desire for things related to Krishna and His service by serving this or holding on to this attachment, or do I really have to systematically rid myself of that? That's what the Nectar of Instruction is all about. It's a very invaluable book. Here are the things you have to, atyahara, this atyahara is directly here, is the Prython man. Is that to collect more than you need means that now you have to worry about that. Someone can steal it, the government can take it. Your mind is on the money. You see? It's not on Krishna. You see? So living as simply as possible, this is a very, very clear characteristic of advanced devotees. They live as austerely as possible. And if by their efforts money comes, and Prabhupada perfectly showed that. He came to America with nothing, 7 rupees, which he couldn't even exchange here. And he had like one contact in western Pennsylvania, now the world-famous city of a village, town of Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm not going to mention why. If you're not following, you're lucky. But Butler, Pennsylvania. But there he stayed for, what, a couple of weeks, I don't know, maybe a month on the outside, you know. And he saw there was some interest, you know, so that was encouraging, you know. But he didn't want to spend his time in Butler, so he made his way to New York. And even there, he didn't really have the opportunity to keep, you know, to preach. He had big ideas, right? As soon as he was walking down the street, he saw a building. I think it was vacant, but it was a nice building right in the middle of Manhattan. It could cost a few $100 million now. And so he wrote his wealthy friend, you know, in India. I don't know if you followed that, and he got a good response. Yes, I'll be happy to have a temple and, you know, finance a temple in America. But that dream didn't work out, and his whole endeavor uptown didn't work out. Even though he made a couple of contacts, Harvey Cohen and somebody Nelson. There was a couple of people who were interested, you know, seriously. But Krishna arranged somehow, you know, that he was able to come downtown. To the Lower East Side, where there was a real more fertile ground, you know, and you know the whole history. So Prabhupada was not impatient. He was not. He didn't. You know, he would go to the office of the shipping line, and check the boats that were going back to India, but he would never buy a ticket. You know, and after some time of doing that, they asked him, well, Swamiji, you're coming here, but you're never getting a ticket. He said, no, you know, he felt he had to stay in order to struggle, you know, he was ready to surrender to it. And such austerity he underwent, but he always had, you know, by that austerity, he felt closer to Krishna. This is the point, is that we're trying to awaken our natural affection for Krishna. So when you go out of your way to do some service, even though you might not, let's face it, you might not be 100% thinking of Krishna all the time, but you're doing it for Krishna. And at the end of the day, you know, you worked really hard, you're tired, you know, spent it, and it's a success. You cooked this, or you collected this, or you know, did your service, you filled in for somebody else, it was a difficult day. But you did it, you know, and you feel closer to Krishna. I like to tell this story. Some of you may have heard it before. When I was in Miami, there's this devotee named Dharma who's still there. I joined in 68. He joined in 68. He's like been there for 60 years or something. But he's a regular there. And at that time, he was a Pujari. When he told the story about when he was Pujari. And he was part of a team that cooked the milk sweets for offering the next morning. You know, for the deities, the sandesh and the burfi and whatever. We used to have something called pera. I don't know if we even know what it is anymore. So there was that. And so one day he came in, but everyone else was out for some reason. They were sick. There was something going on. He had to cook them all himself. So he spent the whole night cooking each individual batch of sweets, you know, very carefully. And the next morning he made the offering. He walked onto the altar and he you know, came and he looked at the deities and he was shocked because he'd never seen them smile so broadly. And, you know, the smile was distinctly different. And then he had this realization, you know, he felt, oh, this is the reciprocation, that he's actually perceiving Krishna, appreciating his smile more, or, you know, Krishna's actually, you know, he can do that. There's other stories where devotees are nicely preparing, you know, they've learned how to prepare very nice preparation for the deities, high class, and they're doing it over some time, and then after a while, the dhoti doesn't fit anymore. He's got a little, you know. Did you know that? I've heard this several times. Whatever the clothes they had that they were able to tie, it was a little more difficult to tie. Anyway, these things are going on. So the idea here is that this Python man has limited his involvement with maintenance of his body to the absolute minimum. Now, for us to do something like this would be over endeavor. It would be, like Prabhupada mentioned that in the Nectar Devotion, one should not immediately think I can chant 64 rounds, you know, and retire. Because it will be more than we can do, and then we'll give it up, we'll give the whole thing up. We should understand our capacity and strive to become regulated and perform our present duties as nicely as possible. And then, you know, when a special situation comes on, like oftentimes big festival comes, like we have these wonderful flower festivals here, you know, and there's certainly a lot more to do during or before the festival, all that picking of the flowers, you know, we invite people to come in. So and the Rath Yatras are classic, you know. So that's a great time for going beyond what we normally do, and you know, and getting more mercy from Krishna. And what is the mercy? It's always the same: more attraction to him and less attraction to Maya. Feeling things that you had to force yourself not to do because you know it's not in the program. Thinking, oh God, I have no attraction for that anymore. I wouldn't think of doing it in a million years. And that's a blessing. So this Python man is clearly not attracted to anything material. He's come down to the minimum where he's just depending completely on Krishna. And this is one of the principles of surrender. Rakshasatiti goptvidvevadanang tata directly means to be completely confident that Krishna will maintain. You know, I remember when back in the day, when joining ISKCON meant joining a temple, and I was fortunate to kind of be at the end of my rope materially in terms of my job and everything, and I was chanting Hare Krishna and visiting the temple, and I had these big posters, and I was just getting attracted to Krishna. And becoming convinced, you know, the thing about Prabhupada's books, one of the things that's so amazing, there's no doubt there. You know, it's like, well, it could be this way, it could be that way. It's not in the book. He's giving the absolute truth, quoting this Shastra, you know, and saying this is the way it is. And so if you're open to that, and you see this is, you know, and who is Prabhupada? You know, he's coming in a long line. It's not that he didn't invent this process, you know, he's just giving it as it is. Then you can become convinced. And especially if your material life is kind of, you know, falling apart. So that's the position I was in. So, and then, you know, the temple, I mean, at that time, there were so many devotees, wonderful devotees there. I had seen a TV program, which I ran into also that's been recorded on YouTube. And, you know, searching for Hare Krishna. The David Susskind show in probably 71, 72, when I joined in 73. And he had a good number of devotees from that temple. And he was interviewing them and asking what their name means and things like that. Well, can you show me a demonstration of the chanting? And immediately they broke into a big kirtan when they had spent half the show practically with the kirtan, you know. I mean, there was, you know, legendary figures like Bhardraj was there, the painters, Rukmini, Yogeshwar, you know, was there, and several others. Bhagavan, yeah, he must have probably come from Detroit or something. I don't think he was in New York. Maybe from upstate New York at that time, because he joined from the Buffalo, that course that Rupanuga had. Yeah, and everyone, I mean, frankly, and this I saw it for the first time in color recently, because we had a black and white TV, but everyone looked so blissful and effulgent, you know. And the ladies they were asking them a question, they were just as philosophically astute as the men, believe me. And it was just very impressive. Now, I didn't join right after that, you know, but that was part of the attraction. So what I'm getting at is that when I joined, then it's like, okay, you know, if I'm going to be maintained, a place to sleep and something to eat, then that's part of surrender. I think I mentioned I gave my little bank account, you know. And so that's what ISKCON used to mean. There wasn't really much of a congregation at all. It was just whoever was in the temple, you know. Gradually, the Indians came forward and others, you know. So what I'm getting at is that ISKCON is kind of geared for that, where you're meant to stop worrying really about your daily maintenance. Of course, if you get married, then there has to be some work. And actually, in those days, there was an ISKCON business. I don't know if it's still going on. The spiritual sky incense, which also included fragrant oils and things. It was a good business because it was very big in the hippie days. You know, you have a home and you'd light some incense and you'd get high, you know, and all that stuff. So gradually, I think it faded out. But this basic theme here, and which is the lesson we can take, is that the less you meditate, the less you're involved in worrying about and striving for some comfortable position in the material world, and you just accept what Krishna gives you. And one of the wonderful things was the prasadam, which is often very expertly cooked and delicious, So this is not an austerity, The austerity is stopping the eating. Then, so it's a basic principle, but we should be sure to transfer that greed and that strong desire to things related to Krishna, and that's why I recommend shlokas, because when you get into them, and I mean Bhagavad Gita, fine, perfect, you're actually hearing Krishna words. You're with Krishna when you hear those words, and you make them part of your consciousness. And if you give class, Prabhupada, he showed the way, always quoting verses. It's just like picking up a jewel, and putting it in your pocket to memorize a verse. And over the years, the Bhagavatam, I was just thinking this one verse at the end of the 3rd chapter of the 2nd canto, I believe it is. Or maybe the 2nd chapter of the 2nd canto. There's this beautiful verse about hearing and chanting. Pabantiye Bhagavata Atmanak Satam Katamritam Shavanaputesha Sambritam Punanti Te Vishayabadushatasayam Vajanti Tachadana Sodorohantikam. It sort of has a little bit of a walking gallop to it, because you're moving. It tells you you move in this verse. So there's those who drink through the ears, Bhagavata Atmanak Satam, the nectar of the katha of their beloved Lord, Bhagavata Atmanak Satam, for whom the Lord is the very life and soul. Katamatam Shravanaputeshu, drink it by pouring it in the ears. Then what happens? Punantite, they purify. They have Bibanti, now you have Punantite. Vishya Vadushatashiyam, which is the polluted aim of life known as sense gratification. I like to point this out. Sanskrit is such a wonderful language. The word for objects of the senses, sense gratification, is Vishaya. Vishaya. And what's the word for poison? Who knows? Visha. Right? So it's not an accident that the word for sense gratification is practically the same word as poison. Vishaya Vidushatashim. So he's saying, what does it purify? It purifies the polluted life. Vidushita means polluted. Vishaya Vidushatash Ashayam. Ashayam is your longings, your desires. We sing it in that song to Tulsi several times. So that desire becomes polluted, becomes purified. It's not that you stop desiring. Your desire becomes purified into desiring to serve Krishna, desiring to be with devotees, desiring to spread Krishna consciousness, like this. And then what's the result of all that? Vrajantite punantite vishya vidushatasayam vrajantita chadana sadorohantukam. Then after they leave this body, and they go, or Bhagavad says, return to a place near the lotus feet of Krishna in the spiritual world. So it's all depending on the quality of our thoughts, which is so much determined by what we hear and chant, what we say and read, and so forth. So we have this great treasure. This Bhagavatam is a zillion times more valuable than $100 billion so-called fortune of these guys. That's just a big albatross on your neck, pulling you down to hell. But the Bhagavatam is the gateway to eternal life in the spiritual world, where there's no disease, no old age, no past, no future, only the eternal present. And, all right, I'll end with a poem. So, the first part is based on a verse by Bhakti Thakur. He says, the sweetness of Sri Krishna's form. Now you have to visualize this painting. Some of you have seen Krishna's in the forest, and he's got a little dove on his hand, and the swan is there, and there's a cow and a deer, all gathered around, kind of nuzzling forward, So it says, Sri Krishna's the sweetness of Sri Krishna's form beguiles. Still sweeter is his face like autumn moon, but sweeter than the sweetest is his smile, whose luscious beauty makes the gopis swoon. Govinda's beauty captivates the doves, the swans, the deer, the cows, and every tree. Indeed, in Braja, every creature loves Sri Krishna and is drowned in ecstasy. That all-enchanting land is paradise, our home, where we may dwell eternally. Most welcome there are those who pay the price to learn to love Sri Krishna perfectly. And there you got the whole program there. Any questions or comments? It's 8:35. Did I go overtime? anyway. No questions, no comments locally. Vijay, you got anything today? Any question?
Can you hear me now, Dravida Prabhu?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Yes, I have a question. May I?
Please.
Thank you very much. You're most kind. Dandavat pranams. Dravida Prabhu, do you mind reading again the translation of text 35?
No, I don't mind at all. That was the one we started with. No. Yes.
Exactly.
The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move.
Yes, that is the text. Thank you very much. You're most kind. So based on this translation, my question is, what is the difference between the python as a spiritual master, and he's calling the Brahmana is calling this python, categorizing this python as excellent spiritual master. So my question is, what is the difference between the excellent python, the python as an excellent spiritual master, and the spiritual master who gave you initiation, Srila Prabhupada? That is my question. What is the difference?
There can be excellent spiritual masters of different kinds. Just like, you know, the basic division between the Shiksha Guru and the Diksha Guru, you know? So oftentimes they're not, you know, the Shiksha Guru often becomes a Diksha Guru later on. So the Diksha Guru is also a Shiksha Guru. But the point is that the Shiksha Guru, the Diksha Guru has to be one. You may have many Shiksha Gurus, but you have one Diksha Guru. And these Guru here basically means the teacher. In other words, we can learn this lesson from the python better than many others, because the python just sits and waits for some prey to come. You know, he like Agasura was a python, right? He just sat. He took up the whole road, 8 miles long. You know, and the boys. They said, "Oh, because this is a big. It looks like we thought it was just a statue, but we see he's a big python. Ah, it's no matter. We'll just walk in. Krishna, he can save us." And he goes inside. And Krishna says, "Oh my God, you know, there's like a momentary thing. What have they done?" You know? Anyway, we won't go there. So the point is that the spiritual masters may be many. He's an excellent spiritual master in the matter of teaching one how to be indifferent to you know, even the eating one day. In other words, to be relying 100% on the Lord for one's protection and one's maintenance. In that regard, he's an excellent spiritual master. But he's not so excellent in teaching you the Bhagavad Gita. In other words, he's just a python. So that's my understanding here, is that there are so many categories of spiritual masters, and within the category of showing us how to just stay in one place and rely on Krishna completely for one's protection and one's maintenance, the python is a good example, and we can learn from him. If you go to, Vijay, there's that section in the Uddhava Gita where Krishna goes through many, in fact there was a book produced called, how does it go? Reeling from the Natural Path or something like that. Really not much put it up. And just that chapter. So that's the idea. We can learn from our environment. You know, just as Krishna says, you can see me in the environment. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I'm the ability of man, etc. You know, the taste of water. So that's a way in which our environment we can learn and we can apply it to Krishna consciousness. So similarly, the tree. You know, Lord Chaitanya says, more tolerant than a tree. Wow, you know, check out that tree. That's really the standard of tolerance. Can we meet that? You know. But that's the idea. The tree is the ideal tolerant personality, and you can learn from him. So that's my understanding, Prabhu. There may be a commentary. Yeah.
Yes, if I may, you mentioned Bhagavad Gita being taught by Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Any other example of how excellent Srila Prabhupada was and is as a spiritual master other than teaching us Bhagavad Gita?
Well, I don't think we have time. We need about 6-8 hours maybe. So maybe next time I give class, I can deal with that subject. But that, Prabhupada is, he was, the world acharya, and he did things
Yes.
that are inconceivable, but are a great example, and we're all fortunate to be connected to him. Not just me, who was a direct disciple, but you're all disciples. That's why I say our spiritual master. It's not just that you're, many of us have a different spiritual master, but they're spiritual masters in this movement because they're following Prabhupada. They're giving what he gave, and being his representatives as well as Krishna's representative. So he is like forever he'll be the most exalted emblem of the spiritual master in this society and all over the world. Recognized. All right, we have to adjourn. Thank you, Vijay, for your presence
You're
and your
welcome,
questions.
Dravida Prabhu.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.